I always say the bar is one of the greatest theater that anyone could encounter. Our theater, right? So you open those curtains that you have behind you, right? Now it's a showtime.
Cheers! What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a new episode of Hospitality Secrets Podcast. Your host, Paul Sfrlia here, and I'm super excited to bring you one more surprise guest, one more guest from which we can learn tips, strategies, tricks about hospitality. We can learn from his immense experience in this industry, because today I invited an hospitality legend and a hospitality guru. So the special guest that I'm having today, it's Salvatore Calabrese. He's renowned as one of the finest and most famous bartenders around the world. I think everybody who's working in the hospitality industry already knows him, but I like, for my sake, to do him a short introduction, even though he's not needing an introduction, but I'll do a short introduction because Maestro Salvatore Calabrese started working in the hospitality industry in 1966. So he's having a very rich experience in this industry. He started in Italy on the Amalfi coast. I think we all know the Amalfi lemons. So he has created multiple modern classic cocktails. He wrote many bar books, and he was the past president of the UK Bartenders Guild. And among many prizes that he received a few very important, the Tales of Cocktails Lifetime Achievement and the Imbibe Industry Legend Awards. And a few nice things, he holds the record of creating the oldest cocktail in the history. There were 730 years worth of history in just one drink, so that's something. And one more thing, one more record that he's having, he's having the world's most expensive cocktail, and I'm very curious about who ordered it, who drank it, and how much it cost. There is no doubt that Salvatore is a true living legend for this industry, so I'm super honored, super excited to have him here in this podcast. So I'm inviting Maestro Salvatore Calabrese. Thank you very much for accepting the invitation. Welcome to Hospitality Secrets.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to my humble house. Thank you for the invitation, by the way, and thank you for the incredible introduction. I feel a foot taller now, you know.
I think everybody knows about you, but I wanted to do the introduction, and I wanted to ask a quick question. How expensive was that cocktail?
It was £5,550.
£5,550. Wow. That was quite expensive.
Well, yes, it was expensive, but I don't think it was that expensive. Actually, I made it quite cheap. It could be 3 times as much, really, to make a profit. What I did, I sold for what cost me, just to cover the cost of the booze. Mm-hmm. I wanted to make, the world oldest cocktail. That was my intention, which I did. And when I went to the Guinness Book of Records for enter the application to make the world oldest cocktail, they denied the application. They said, no, that cannot be a state. You have to break the Guinness Book of Records, you can make the most expensive cocktail. So obviously, in a liquid format, it was, because there's been many cocktails that have been very expensive, but only because they added a piece of jewelry or diamond or whatever it is to make very expensive that cocktail. But with me, it was a true liquid gold, right? So, and that's why I got the record. And and to break the Guinness Book of Records, you can't just say, okay, my bottle of cognac cost £50,000 or £100,000. So therefore, I want to make a profit out of that. I will sell it 3 times as much to make a little bit more GP, or 4 times as much, or whatever, because it's rare. With the Guinness Book of Records, it doesn't work that way. You have to charge for what it cost you. So I had to break it down, all the liquid with each individual cost to reach £5,500. But truly, the cocktail, if I would sell, I still sell it at the same price because I don't want to change it. But truly, because I want to give that experience to people. But truly, that cocktail I could easily sold it for £20,000 per cocktail. All right. Don't forget that the ingredient that I use in these cocktails, the Salvatore Legacy, actually above me, there is the Guinness Book of Records.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, so that's the diploma of the Guinness Book Record. Looks nice. Yeah. Perfectly.
Okay. That's one thing. There you go. So when I broke the Guinness Book of Records, I started to think about, first of all, how I can put all this ingredient and making sure the cocktail will taste great. Now, each bottle, if you look in the video, each bottle, when I made the Guinness Book of Records, which was Peter Dorelli there, Del De Groff was there, Eric was there, Eric Lawrence was there, Alice Cretena, everyone in the bar industry was there. I mean, I flew Del from America to participate in the event. It was a great event. There was camera from all around the world. There were, the room was packed solid, right?
Everybody was curious.
Everybody was curious. And obviously, because I was all open a bottle that truly they were ancient. And I remember that. So I started to see what I had in the way of bottles, old bottles, and then trying to pick up some of the modern style and make the cocktail, right? So it wasn't just a fluke. But the only difference was that each ingredient was 200 years old and 300 years old. So trying to make a cocktail with modern ingredient, it's not necessarily taste the same when you open up an unknown bottle. I made it with a Kumo from 1770. I opened up a bottle of 1788 cognac, which you think about the year before the French Revolution, the American Constitution. George Washington was making his campaign to be the very first president of the United States. I mean,
in that year.
Then you think about 1860, the unification, the beginning of the unification of Italy. Garibaldi was doing his campaign from Sicily, going all the way up to free Italy, to unify Italy, and then at the beginning of the Civil War, and then an old bottle of a Curacao, orange liqueur, and then to finish, I use a very, very, very rare bottle, miniature bottle of 1900 Angostura Bitter.
Ooh.
So all these four ingredients put it together is over 740 years of history in one glass. So the price of the cocktail, it wasn't a price that you think that it would have cost me £1,000 and I would have charged £5,000. But the true price of that cocktail to make is £5,500. So there is no profit to make every time I sell that cocktail.
So the only profit is the satisfaction of delivering the memorable experience.
Oh yeah, you can imagine how nervous my guys get when somebody is asking for, the Salvatore Legacy.
And there is a lot of pressure because if you
because they have to measure by millimeter. By the drop. It's not by free pouring. There's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, you do like 5 of those in the same time, free pouring. Yeah, that's nice, and that's like very memorable. That's history, actually. You are writing and rewriting history.
Well, it was because anybody could make it more expensive, and undoubtedly, because the bottle of old spirits are getting much more expensive. They're getting more and more expensive. But no one ever in history as long as I'll be around, I hope, for a little while, will ever be able to make the oldest. That's, I would be surprised somebody around the world will be able to make a cocktail older than I have made.
And that's actually your signature, as I know you started the liquid history. Yeah.
Well, I wrote a book about liquid history. Yeah, that was in 1983, 84, when I took over the Duke's Bar in those days. The Duke's Bar is not what it is today. That is much larger and is expanded through the kitchen that used to be behind the bar. It was only 6 tables and about 20 people I could put in that bar. So I couldn't only work with. I could not make more money than what I could make. The average taking of at that time per week, it was between £400 to £500. And I was working on commission. I used to have a 10% commission on the sales with my, with my partner, with my assistant. And so I started to think about how I could make more money, because our wages was very little. So I thought, well, I can't work with quantity. So therefore, what do? So therefore, I need to create quality to charge people and make a bigger revenue. So I thought London, very historical town, Duke's very historical name. I had and face a painting of the Duke of Wellington, which you think about the Battle of Waterloo, 1815. So I had a lot of history around me. But one thing I was missing behind the bar, it was a little bit of liquid history. And that's where I had this unique idea to come up with a concept to sell history by liquid, by the glass. And if you really imagine, how can we be part of history? We can see it, we can read it, right? There's some old books. We can feel it and touch it by touching old furniture.
Look at the videos.
Whatever it is. But one thing you can't do is tasting it. So my idea was quite unique, to give the experience to few people in the world to taste something that when Thomas Jefferson was just president of the United States, or 1803, or Napoleon was marching over to Russia, 1811, or retreating from Russia, 1812, 1805, the Battle of Trafalgar, a really historical piece. But it was an easy task. The idea was great. It was an easy task, to convince the management and to support me, the owner to support me financially, and to find that. I mean, that was not easy, because I wanted to make sure that there was a date on the label, as well. And cognac was a big part of the history, heritage history of the British world, of the British Empire. And the British always been great collectors of wine, or port and cognac, right? Not so much about whiskey, but it was very much of that, because the cognac was, on those days, was reputed to be the noble spirit before the phylloxera. And so that's what I did. I did a lot of research, and eventually I found my very first bottle. I sold in a week, and with quite a bit of money. And so I proved the case. And eventually I took the little bar that used to take an average revenue from £400 to £500 up to £10,000 per table.
So that was such a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, it was the average. It was between £10,000 to £15,000 a week. Occasionally, I could have a customer who used to come and used to buy the old bottle and put it on the table, or reserve the bottle.
So that's the proof that people are buying the experience. People are buying the story behind the drink that they are.
I could truly say I was the pioneer, the first one to come up with this concept of selling liquid history. There was no concept before. No one thought about it to sell and open, buy an old bottle of cognac or whiskey or rum, and whatever it was, old liqueur, and open it and selling it, and give the opportunity. Because remember, those although the bottle of cognac, for example, from 1789 is 300 years old, right? You start to say, oh, maybe it's going off.
Yeah.
No, not really, because any spirit that has been distilled, right, only age in the cask, right? So the true age of any of those fine spirits is how long has it been in the cask? Has it been 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years? So the sooner you bottle, that's it. The glass preserves the alcohol. Right?
It doesn't take extra flavor and loses the flavor because
it remains
sealed.
It's preserved. It's sealed, And I have opened thousands of those bottles, and they still maintain the richness, the earthiness, the chocolate, the anything that I want to find in the way of sense of flavors, but also the alcohol strength is still there.
So you started like a big trend after that, and then it grew and it grew.
I used to make old-fashioned. If I had the bottle of 1890, I had a bottle of bourbon from 1890. And at that time, I thought, okay, I have a bottle of 1890. I had the bottle of 1900 Angostura Bitter. 40 years ago, I started to make old-fashioned with the original ingredient when old-fashioned was created. The same again, I did, Mai Tai by using 17 years old the Nephew's rum. I went to 2 bottles of that. I wish I kept 1 bottle. One bottle of Nephew's rum, 17 years old Nephew's rum today, it would be worth 70 to 80,000 pounds. So that's what I used to do. Whenever I used to find some old liqueur, some old whiskey, some old cognac, or Sazerac, I used to do old Sazerac, with the original cognac of the Sazerac de Forge when the Sazerac was born, and making it. And I had the fun 40 years ago, and I really had developed, and as it opened more and more bars, I kept going with that idea of selling liquid history, even in a cocktail format, and now today you guys are trying to recreate what I have done 40 years ago. So
we are taking it further. We inspire from.
Nice.
It's
nice. I mean, we need to always, go forwards and go backwards.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I want to ask questions and to find out, because we need to get inspiration. And talking about history, can you share us a bit your backstory in the hospitality industry? You have a very rich experience. Can you briefly tell for the listeners a bit what was your journey till now?
Well, I started correctly what you just say. I started in 1966. I was 11 years old, and I was a bit of a wild boy. And in the summertime, when in Italy, the school holidays are very long. They start the end of May and they reopen in September. So my dad, not to have, obviously he had the shop, he used to run the shop. And it was not unusual to see a child to help out, to work in a coffee shop, or work in a restaurant, or to do working on the beach, to do something to help out, right? And not to stay on the street, basically. So my dad decided to find me a little job in this tiny little bar, an Hotel Regina on the Amalfi coast in my hometown called Maiori. And so my day used to start at 6 o'clock in the morning. I used to get up, go to the hotel restaurant, where my first task was to slice bread for breakfast for the restaurant. And each slice I had to be the same. Could not be one thicker, one smaller. And even at that young age, I started to be very precise and very particular how thick that slice of bread was. And I was measured as well. I used to have I made a little mold next to and every morning what I used to do, cut the slice of bread, put in a mold and that's, and I had to fit in that mold, the two little book. And so I became to be very precise and very particular of any task that was given to me. My second duty was, which was the duty of all day while I was there, it was by 7:30, after I slide the bread for everyone for breakfast, I used to go down to this tiny little bar and switch the coffee machine on and clean up the bar. The bar was running by my mentor, my first mentor at the time, called Signor Raffaello. And he was kind of a, how could I describe him? I always say that he was the Humphrey Bogart of the bar world. Do you remember the film Casablanca, where Humphrey Bogart used to wear this impeccable cream jacket?
Yeah, very sharp.
Was very sharp, and he was able to make sure that the dream of every of his guests became to be reality. So he was the one that people used to go to him. So he could joke, and that's what it was, Mr. Raffaello. It was an old pro, which he traveled the world and worked internationally around the world. He could speak several languages. And he came back to his hometown, to the Amalfi coast, and he found, wanted to stay at home, basically. And he was Mr. Charm, Mr. Personality. He could charm the socks off of any women. He was he loved the women. I mean, he loved women. Telling you, he was like a hawk. Every time we used to see a good-looking girl, boom, it was there, And one of my very first lessons that I had from Mr. Raffaello, and that lesson that I always share wherever I do a masterclass, I almost start with that, is that every morning I used to switch the coffee machine, clean up the bar. About 8 o'clock, when the pressure of the coffee machine was right, I used to make coffee, and I used to bring it to the kitchen, to the chef at the hotel. And every morning, as I walk into the kitchen, the chef was sitting at the far end of the kitchen, on his table, on his desk. And I used to say, "Good morning, Chef Alphonse." And I used to bring the coffee to him. He never used to raise his eyebrow to me. He never used to smile at me. He always used to be moody. Typical chef, right? I used to bring the coffee to him, but I used to get out. But one morning, as I walk into the kitchen and said, "Good morning, Chef Alfonso," he looked at me and he was cleaning a very big fish. And he looked at me and said, "What's so good about it?" And he was so mad. He grabbed that fish and threw the fish at me, right? So I caught that bloody fish, but that fish was half the size that I was, and it was heavier than I was. And I went back, flat on my back, facing this enormous fish, right, looking at me. He came over, he took the fish, grabbed the fish, took the fish, and he walked away. Now, bear in mind, I got really curious. I said, "What the hell I done to the chef?" I only said good morning to him, nothing else, right? Why did he throw the fish at me? So when Signor Raffaello came in the morning, he used to start around 10 o'clock his day, I told him the fishy tale. And he, in a very simple way, right, to make me understand, he said, "You did not read the mood of the chef. Remember, not everyone wants the sun, being brought the sunshine to them, right?
Wow.
So your task, right, in this industry, and each one of you who works behind the bar, right, or in the hospitality business, we need to learn how to read that person in front of us first before we bring something of ours to him." So that means, does he want me to be a bit more calm and say, "Good afternoon to you, sir. How are you today? How are you today, madam?" Gently, and understood what character is. Once you understand the person, then you interact. Then you start to bring something that they like to hear or to see. Then eventually, if you want to bring your sunshine to them, bring the sunshine to them. But don't expect only because you feel like that today is sunny, you should bring what the sunny to them. They might,
Nice.
they might just want to have a shoulder to cry on, chat and be sympathetic about it. So it was an amazing lesson. And from there on, I always took that lesson with me.
So hospitality is not one measure fits all. It has to
No,
be personalized.
hospitality is, it is, I always say the bar is one of the greatest theater that anyone could encounter. Our theater, right? So you open those curtains that you have behind you, right? Now it's a showtime, right? It's about us caring, and with the COVID especially, the once we come out of this COVID, people wants to be cared more. People wants to be loved more. People wants to be feel more alive, right? And it's not just a bad dream. Remember to be great at what you do. I cannot call myself great, right? Unless I understood what is my task. I reach what I am today, the Maestro, not because you call me the Maestro. My voice was spread through my customer. Remember in the 80s, the 90s, there was no social media, right? It was the people who used to come into my bar, used to go around the world, taking my drink to another bartender and talk about me, all right? With the idea of the liquid history, with the idea of the dry martini, super cool, super dry. Anything that I did, it has to understand that, yes, I started at the age of 11. By the age of 12, I made my very first Americano. But a little bit older than that, because in the 60s, it was the period of the Dolce Vita, the true Dolce Vita. People used to dress up. Even if it was a summer holiday place, people by 6 o'clock, after they come from the beach, before dinner, they used to all dress up. It was a jacket, there was a tie, there was elegancy. The women was dressing up, they were putting makeup. It was not about shorts, not about flip-flop. No, nothing like that. There was a rule dress code. And the Americano, which was very popular during the day, it became to be secondary. And then it was the Negroni, and the Martini, the old-fashioned, this Manhattan, this type of drink, the classic bamboo, the drink that Adonis, this type of drink that you asked for, right? And I used to see Signor Raffaello making the Negroni. Negroni was well asked. Negroni in the 60s was well asked. Then in the 70s, in the 80s, the 90s, it went down and then eventually came back up again because the bartender start get hold of this drink again, and start to spread the love. But he used to make the Negroni all the time, in an old-fashioned glass, build, stir it, give it. There's no mixing glass, it was individual glass, all right? There's always been built, the Negroni. So I used to see him doing it all the time. So at the age of 13, 12, 13, I can't remember, it was either the second or the third season, I was there. He was chatting with the two beautiful ladies, and I knew when not to disturb him. And this gentleman came to the bar and he asked me for the Negroni. So I decided, because I learned how to make the Americano and I was allowed to make the Americano. It was my very first time. I thought, I saw Mr. Signor Raffaello do the Negroni so many times, I'll make it because I don't want to disturb him. So he noticed that I was making the Negroni, allowed me to finish it, but he didn't allow me to serve it. He took the Negroni, took me behind the bar, and he gave me a gentle slap. He said, don't do something that you are not old enough to do. Be respectful, because the Negroni, it was a big stage. Right. And so I do two things every time I do the Negroni now. That's one of my favorite drinks. I do a pray and I duck just in case it's behind me to give me another slap. So, those days was truly the Dolce Vita style. And, the idea, I learned how to do the first Jenny, the Genio mixologist, right? How to learn how to make a drink. But it doesn't mean that I am great at what I am, right? None of us is great or great bartender, as we all call each other, only because he can make a drink. That's not the old school, and it should be not the modern school, all right? Because to be great, the art of mixologist, we all artists of work, by all means, we all use the glass as our canvas to create our work of art. We do it, and we do it even better today, much better than my car. My guys can teach me how to make a good drink, okay? But you need the other hand. And the other hand is the art of hospitality.
Ah,
Join them together. Now you can call yourself a great bartender because
wow.
you understood what means caring, okay? Making sure that everybody's happy, right? Because remember, that theater, that curtain that you're going to open, that means now you're on the show, right? So if you're on the show, you don't need to hide away. You have to embrace. You have to smile with your eyes, with your mouth. You have to open your hand and give it a welcome. Because if you
Mm.
want to be a chef, only because you can make a great drink, just like a chef who could make a great food, right? Then go behind that curtain,
And nobody
right?
will see you. Yeah, yeah.
Nobody will see you and just be a provider. But the
Hmm.
art of bartender is not that. Okay. Remember, bars are social place, and you, as the orchestra or the actor, you are in a position to make the dream of your guests come reality. Maybe introducing a beautiful lady that eventually will becomes to be a future wife, right? Which I've done many times, few
Wow.
times. Or maybe introduce this young lady that he feels in love and he gets divorced. I've done that a few times as well. So I'm responsible for one thing and the other, but then it's not my fault.
You
It's
just apply the hospitality, what they needed in that moment.
that moment. I mean, this journey took me to meet some incredible people. I served and meet every member of the royal family in one way.
Mm.
At one time, I used to be known as the royal bartender because I served Princess Margaret, Her Majesty. I served Queen Mother. I served Princess Diana, Prince Charles, Prince Philip. God
How
bless
was
his soul.
serving them? I'm very curious. How was serving the royalties? How was the
Well,
experience for you?
you are. I think one of the reasons that I did that as well because I become to be quite famous the way I used to do my martini. And Her Majesty, she's very fond of the martini, and I was invited to do the martini my way to her. And she didn't have one, but she actually had two of those.
Oh,
And I said, I've done a few. She enjoy a drink, and she's allowed to enjoy a drink. They have an heritage. Remember, the Queen Mother used to enjoy the Dubonnet. Her Majesty still enjoy the Dubonnet. They love the classic, and they love the gin. And so my martini has a true royal crest. My bar was the place at that time that everyone used to come. Sean Connery, the Moody Blues, Santana, Bon Jovi's, Mick Jagger, Paul McCartney. You name it, everyone has come through my door, one way or the other. Either to taste and drink in liquid history that they will only do once in their lifetime, or because of my martini. My martini put me on the map of the world of the bars. From the bartender, the Duke's Bar is still famous to make the same way, my direct martini in the same way that I created, that I made it. I always say that it took God 6 days to make the perfect world. It took me 5 to make the perfect martini. Now, this is another task. This is what means caring, what means hospitality, and why it took me 5 days. And I had a customer stay at the hotel called Stanton Delaplay. From the very first day that he came to the hotel, in the afternoon, he used to come to the bar and he used to ask me for a very dry but very cold dry martini. And I used to say, certainly, Mr. Delaplay, to make a very cold, use the excess use of ice, right? So much more dilution. And he used to say, yes, it's cold enough, but it's not dry enough. he used to ask for the second one. He used to be a 2 martini man, okay, in the afternoon. So he said, yes, this is cold enough. Can you make sure that next one it will be dry? So I used to make it dry, and so don't overstir it, not make it so cold. And he used to say, yes, this is dry enough, but it's not cold enough. So I could not satisfy his palate. That's the first day, the second day, the third day. Now remember, what the customer wants, it is what the customer should get. All right. It is not about us to teach the customer what they should have. We can eventually, but when you have a request, don't be Mr. Smart, right? Try to please him.
Nice,
right?
Nice.
And so this the third day, and I start to have a nightmare. If I would be an arrogant bartender, I could easily say to him, listen, this is the way I make my martini. If you don't like it, that is the door, and that's the end of it. But
yeah, the excuse, that's the way we are doing it here. the famous excuse.
Well, that's it, so I persevere. So on the fourth day was Friday, and I noticed that in the staff canteen there was 7 fish and chips, and there was a kitchen porter who was very particular how much mulled wine wants on his chips. So he used to move the chips from the plate, one dash, eat the chips. I said, well, that's clever. Now I know how to monitor the dryness. So I took that bottle, wash it, and I put dry vermouth. Now I know how many dash I can use to make it dry. Now I had to make it colder. And the Duke's was a small bar, 2.5 meters, still the same. The top of the bar hasn't changed. But I had a sink where I washed my own glass by hand for 12 years. Right. Ooh. I had the picnic basket where I put the ice under the sink for 12 years. I used to lean down, right? So my back is very strong. And then a little station where I used to have my glasses, and the little domestic fridge where there used to be a little freezer big enough to put a bottle of gin and 2 glasses. The 5th day, Mr. Delaplane came, asked for his very dry but very cold dry martini. So I was ready. I took the mixing glass, put the ice in the mixing glass. I took the glass from the freezer, it was very, very cold. I took the bottle from the freezer, it was very, very cold. And there, just like that, I didn't decide to put the gin in the mixing glass. I said, no, I put it directly into the glass and then lay the vermouth on top, twist a lemon, and serve it. And that was the birth of the direct martini. Very cold, but very dry. He took a sip, he finished the drink, didn't say anything. He asked for the same again, and because he did not complain, I made it the same way. He took another sip, he stood up and walked away. I said, oh my God, every day, at least he hasn't complained today, And but then a few hours later, he came back down to the bar and he introduced himself for who he was. Stanton Delaplane, an extraordinarily famous journalist who used to write for the New York Times, the San Francisco Chronicle, the Los Angeles Times. And there where he said, wherever you are in London, right, you must make a stop at the Duke's where Salvatore will make you the best martini in the planet. All right. Wow. That was the beginning. So, and every time he used to come to London, he used to carry on writing. And because he was such a famous person, he started, and journalists well follow, he started to, people used to come for the direct martini. And then eventually what I did, I had a little stool where I used to put it on top in front of the customer, and we used to create the serve. That means you ask for the martini with the gin that you prefer or the vodka that you prefer, and do the direct martini in front of you. And today, and then eventually I moved to the trolley. I made a little trolley because I was getting very tired moving the bloody stool eventually. And I created the very first martini trolley in for the bar, and that's nice. And that's the story of. So you see, if it wasn't because I persevere to fulfill the expectation of this customer, I might not be here today talking to you.
So those moments are making the difference.
This is what true hospitality is all about. Caring. Fulfilled caring. fulfill the expectation of the person that is in front of you.
So simple, so
Very
simply
simple.
put it. Very simple put it, and very deep. Yeah, what this was one of the questions, what is hospitality, and you already pre-answered without me even asking. So but regarding your history in this industry, how would you describe your journey in the hospitality industry in one sentence? How would you distill all the journey that you had in just one sentence or in a few simple words?
Well, I would love to redo it again. That's how much I loved it.
Love to
And how
redo
much
it
I
again.
still love. Yeah, and that's how much I still love it, because on the end of the day, I'm still here. I'm still involved in the bar industry. I always say the shaker does not know how old you are when you shake, as long as you shake it properly. And it's your musical instrument. It's been my musical instrument for many years. When you be creative, making a drink, you don't need age, you don't need experience. You need to be an artistic mind to understand the flavors. So it is an unbelievable. In one sentence, it will be an incredible journey for me, you know, which I still love to carry, you know, and I carry through my student, through my team. Remember that, yes, it's all very nice that you call me the Maestro. It's not a name that I give myself. It is a name that my team start to give me. But I can only be a good maestro as long as I love to play the music that my bartender loves to play, my team loves to play, right? So it's not about a single individual person. Remember, be humble, be and be, I always say embracing. And I embrace my team and my customer. I always say that I have two customer in my bar. I have my internal customer and my external customer. My internal customer is my team.
Wow.
Because if I care for them, then there will be a mirror, a reflection. They're happy with what they do, they have what they love, they feel important in their job, and there is a reflection to my external customer, my paying customer. Right?
So nice.
So, and the only thing I have to do is say, music maestro, musica maestro.
Musica maestro, and then the art of hospitality starts happening.
That's it.
Nice.
From the first moment when people walk into the door, no one should feel invisible. No one. All right. It doesn't matter how busy the bar is. I insist that my bartenders, they make their drink every 10, 20 seconds, raise their eyes and they scan the room. All right. Scanning the room to see the person that they said, I'm here, but no one is looking after me. Eye contact. I saw you and nodded, making sure you smile to him and say, I'll be with you straight away. Just with the eye contact, right? So that person is not invisible no more. How many times you walked into a very busy bar, right? And you feel, yes, it's busy, there is an ambience, but I feel invisible.
Yeah. I'm
because
unimportant.
Everybody's running, everybody's trying to do something. That is not the case. It's about caring. It's about using a very simple format. I always say, use your 5 senses. Use your eyes, right, to see and scan the room, right? Smile with your eyes. Be true to that. Use your nose, because for pleasant and unpleasant aroma, your nose is your first instant journey of anything that you smell in a drink format, because that perception, everything that you're going to encounter, but also unpleasant aroma that you might find, okay? Your reaction. Use your ear, because how many times has happened that because you're busy, you hear a smash, right? And you don't react. Or you're having a conversation with somebody and you still carry on to have a conversation with that one in front of the bar. And that person next to her is there waiting, right? And he goes like this, and you refuse to hear, right? So what is wrong to say, excuse me, sir, I'll come back to you again. And straight away you care for the other person and maybe introduce them, right? So they can carry on the same the same talk, and you eventually can just make sure that they're happy and they stay longer, all right? So use your ear, or you hear a smash. There is a lady in need because the drink spilled on top of her, right? I always say to my team, first thing I want you to do, it doesn't matter how busy the bar is, stop. I want everyone to stop. Everyone go to that person, clean the table, clean the glass, make sure she's okay. And it only takes you 10 seconds, 20 seconds as a team effort, right? Remake the drink and now start again. It's not, it's not work, only because you are busy, you don't want to stop and help. No, that's scary, right? So use your mouth, because that's the biggest smile. That is the biggest welcome that you can give, right? Very gentle smile. It opens the soul, opens the heart, for somebody who comes through you. And then use your hand. Obviously, today with the COVID, we can't use our hand as much as we used to. Shake their hand, welcome, if you can. It's your personal touch. Embrace it. But this is the kind of simple thing that you can implement to make sure that whoever is in your team knows.
So these are like the strategies. No, actually, what I like is that you actually answered to a question that I was about to ask.
Okay. So you see, once I start, that's it. I carry on.
Yeah, it's perfect for me. It's absolutely perfect. You are answering the questions before me answering, because actually, this is what it was. Seventh question, what are your top strategies for being an absolutely amazing host, which you just replied. So I'm asking the question after you answer it.
Well, it's like, I met so many personalities, so many famous people. As I say, I served Her Majesty, I served several presidents of the United States. In private event, or them to come to my bar, when I was at the Lanesborough and Salvatore 50. The only thing I did not like it was the security when they came in. I served a lot of famous people. I mean, I had the Robert De Niro walk into my bar, and I give him the welcome, good evening, Mr. De Niro, and he asked me, he said, who is Salvatore? And I said, I am Mr. De Niro. And he said, why all my friends asked me to come and give you a visit? You are a must stop by. And I said, thank you for that, Mr. De Niro, but would you mind to take your cap off? Because he had the basketball cap. And I said, and please come in. And I'm pretty sure that you will understand why. And we became to be friends in that respect, So there is many stories I could tell.
Nice.
And each one of them, I always made them sure that they don't feel how important they are, right? But bring them to a level to feel comfortable in my world. That's the most important thing. Only because they're famous, don't treat them don't talk to them, don't talk to them, trying to make sure that they feel comfortable in your home. And that's what the best hospitality in the world is. It's not about, I always say, the bar, it's not the bar what makes the bar, how beautiful it looks. I work in luxury. I make beautiful bar, because I'm in Mayfair, and I always have designed a very beautiful looking bar, inside and out. But for 12 years, I worked in a very small bar where there was no music. I didn't have an ice machine, an ice bucket. I used to wash my glass by hand. So I worked in a very simple environment, all right? But I made sure that everyone used to talk about me, all right? That's the magic, right? So the magic is, it's not the place what makes the place. It's the people inside. That means you and them, the customer. there is a word that my friend Peter Dorelli used. One day, while we were traveling around the world, we went into a small little bar. And as we walked in, Peter Dorelli stopped at the door, right? As he stopped, I stopped with him. And he looked around, just like that. He looked around, scanned the room. There is a soul in this bar. There is a soul in this bar. And what he meant, that there was an ambience, but this ambience was dictated by this person behind the bar who used to make sure that everybody was happy.
Mm.
That's the soul. Bring these to that place.
Put the soul
and
into
if you
place,
go, and if you go for work, if you go into work and you say, "Oh, another shift today, this is not for you," because we bartenders know when we start, and we don't know necessarily when we end. What time we finish, right? So if you take the job, take it with love, take as an experience, and don't bring negativity. I always say one of the biggest problems that bartenders encounter is, obviously I've been married now for 40 years and I've been with my wife for 46 years. But I always made sure that I never took home to work and never took work to home. So whenever I am home, I am a family man, and that's it, right? And I dedicate my time, my energy to my family. And the same again when I go work. I don't go to the customer that he says to me, "I had a terrible day today, Salvatore," okay? And I stop him there. I say, "Listen, mate, you think you had a terrible day. Let me tell you about terrible day." And I start to tell him about my terrible day. So before I know, he finishes his drink, say, "Thank you very much," and bye-bye, and never to see him back again. So it's about listen. Start to learn to listen, right? Start to learn to make that small conversation that you open that person. When I started this industry, we used to have a belief that I learned that the bartender has a many tasks, many job, right? He was known as a doctor at work because we use our chemistry to fix stomach upset, influenza, right? All kinds. We use our chemistry. Yeah, we use our chemistry to make somebody feel good. But we are also psychologists because we should learn how to stop and listen, right? And make sure that whatever we respond, right, whatever the words we use, let that person express himself. And many of the best stories happen in the bar. I wrote 14 books, which they've sold millions, right? My fifth book, Home Bartender's Guide, today is by far the best-selling cocktail book in the world. My cocktail book has sold more copy than anywhere else in history, okay? Which I'm very proud of. But one book maybe I should write is about life story, about people. But one thing I will not do it because that secret is still mine to maintain. So, so we are doctor at work, we're psychologists, we are the best friend. We are artists at work because we create, right? Create incredible drink, right? We're knowledgeable people. A lot of people don't understand how knowledgeable a bartender is. One day was about, when I started behind the bar, I had about 30 bottles maximum. Now in any of my bar, I have 400, 500, 600 bottles. And before they go behind the bar, my bartender needs to know everything about why the choice, why there is so much choice, right? Because the choice is there for people to choose. And each bottle that we choose or different gin that tells a story, we need to tell that story, right?
It's all about
stories.
So
we become to be very knowledgeable. And bartenders are hungry. Young bartender today, you are hungry to learn more. So we know the difference between gin and gin, vodka, rum, whiskey. Think about how big an umbrella whiskey is. Cognac. I am an expert on cognac. I'm a chevalier. I'm a knighted of cognac. But I know a lot about cognac and I'm still learning. All right. I wrote a book about cognac as a liquid history. which is in the British Library as a reference book. But, we know so much today, right? You are so hungry to learn more. But remember, that doesn't make you the best bartender at work or in the world. To be great at what you do, please use the other skill as well. The caring skill.
Yeah, the
art
hospitality,
of hospitality. Because when we reopen, a lot of people will look for that. It's not about launching the new menu straight away. Talk about the drinks that many of your customers don't even understand. We only do it for bartender to impress another bartender, to reach the best 50 bar of the world. That's not the way it is. The most magical aspect is give them a great drink. Yes, create your signature drink. Create whatever you want, but please don't think that is the most important thing that there is about an industry that I've been cherished and caring for the last 55 years. And I know it's still time to do more.
For sure. Which is talking about the hospitality part, which is the most memorable hospitality experience you ever felt, but as a guest, not you providing it?
I think there is, well, I will tell you a story later that as an experience as a bartender. As a guest, I have many great experience. As I said to you, I travel the world, and I'm not looking for luxury service. Actually, sometimes I just want to be simple. My best experience for me is when I go home on the Amalfi coast in Mayuri, and I have a little boat there, which I tour up and down like a yo-yo. But in the afternoon, in the early evening, before I go for dinner, I stop to my favorite bar, the matinee bar, look in the sunset going down, ask for a Negroni, sit down and maybe smoke small cigars and just see and chill the world go by. The same again when I went to Cuba or whatever, I went to a magical place where I see that there is somebody who cares for me. And I don't judge, because we should not judge by saying who is the best and why the best, right? Sometimes simple place can be the best. Obviously there are bars that I'm not going to disclaim to you because it's not fair, because I think I love everyone who loves what they do, as long as you've done it in the best capability that you have, and sometimes not necessarily with the best drink, but with the best of intention, right?
And caring,
And caring is good enough for me. Because he cares for me, I'll go back. And maybe I'll, if he will listen to me, I will say, and if he's the same person that I think he is, I will say, if he does make me a Negroni or whatever it is that I will ask, and it's not up to my standard, I'll do like Mr. Ndella playing. I will tell him, yes, this is good enough, but it's not good enough. Would you mind to make it drier or more colder? And if he knows that he is in the hospitality business, he will listen to me and he will try to make the way I would like to drink it.
And maybe he will. Yeah, and maybe he will create a new classic.
And maybe I will talk about it. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm trying to say to you. I think there is always room for that. It's beautiful. I mean, it's not boring. Hospitality is a big word for a reason, because every day is different. Every day is a different person comes through that door. Every day there is a different feeling about that room. You never know how to deal with dilemma, right? So if you're good at what you do, you know how to resolve a dilemma, a problem in your bar, right? Or you read it before it happens. That's the best
Even
thing.
Better.
You need to, because remember the story I was telling you about read the customer? So therefore, you start to learn how to read the customer, but you read the mood or the contraction that it might create and happen. So step in before that will happen. because they are in your home. And you need to make sure that they know that it's not their home, but it's my home. So in my home, I have rules, right? Where everyone has to be happy. It doesn't mean that you have more money than the other guy. That gives you an authority to be served better. Everyone is equal.
Rule number one, everybody should be happy.
Everyone should be happy. And then there is no need to say VIP, not VIP. The sooner they walk into your room, it doesn't matter because you don't know that person. You know, that he might be famous, he might be rich. It doesn't matter. It might be the person that he saved his money to make the evening special for his girlfriend or his wife. Why we need to disappoint them?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's the beauty of that. You know, and always apply the rules. You know, in my home, it's my home. You know.
Nice. Do you have any secret sauce for being so successful in the hospitality industry? Any secret thing that you are using in order to be so successful?
Well, I think I've always been very approachable. Approachable for my team. You know, my team can tell you that, you know, I respect everyone. I embrace and kiss everyone. I shake the hand of all my team when I will go to work, and I embrace them and I kiss my girls to say thank you, know, well, good morning, well done, you know, make them feel good. And I would never leave the place unless I go to each one member of my team to say bye-bye, right? So I'm not just, because I believe that there is a two style of management. The management that will say is me and you, therefore you create that bridge. That means do everything that I tell you. Don't query about it, just do it, right? That sometimes can be successful. And there is the other type of management that will say is me and you, right? Me with you. Sorry, me with you. That means that's my type of management. That's who I am. That means I can only be as good as my team will work the way that I like to work. All right. So encourage and embrace them and be part of that team. You know, and even, you know, just finished talking to my bar manager, Maurizio, you know, just before I came online, and we periodically have a conversation, the same again with Federico, with Daniele, Cristiano, you know, I'm always on the other line, you know, whatever they call me, they can call me. You know, it's important that the skill of communication. And it's also important the skill of communication between you and the customer. I'm going to tell you two stories before we finish, okay?
Perfect.
One story is about, remember when I was telling you about fulfill the dream of a customer, right?
Yeah.
So I've been responsible for many weddings, but also for a few divorces, okay? But one story that I really like to tell you is about one customer, Mr. Smith, very English name, but he was very English. He is very English. He was in his 40, you know, very successful businessman, but very shy with a female, with the opposite sex. He obviously liked the opposite sex, but he had a very shy approach. So he used to come at the Lanes Bar at that time, at the library bar. And he's sitting at the bar, he was having his usual martini and sit there, all right? And one day, there was two ladies at the bar. One was particularly very, very bubbly. She was a banker, very bright woman, but very bubbly. So you know when you say positive and negative, you know, you need them both to give electricity, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that could be the perfect match. So what I did, I moved the conversation from one to another, and make sure that the conversation will never dilute all through the night. Okay. Eventually, they start to go out together, right? This couple. Eventually, Mr. Smith comes to me and says, Salvatore, I'm in love. In his private conversation, because he could trust me to tell me about things. You know, he used to always have the shoulder for him to talk to me. And I said, so what's the problem? I said, well, I'd like to ask her to get married. I said, okay, and I said, I feel a bit nervous. I said, oh, for Christ's sake, oh my, just do me a favor, go shopping, buy the bloody ring, which was a big ring with a big diamond like that, and just bring me the ring. Tell me when you come, and I'll organize everything. Don't worry about it. Okay, so he goes shopping, goes and buy this bloody ring. It brings me the ring, right? I say, okay, then tell me when you come. He tells me when you come. So I'll go down the day it was coming. I had the bar, a corner in my bar called the Cubic Corner. It was well tucked away. But sometimes I used to put famous people like Noel Oasis who used to come. He used to want to be in there. Liam Neeson who used to want to be there. Ray, you know, a lot of people, you know, that you want to, you know, Jay-Z and his wife Beyonce. They used to like to be sitting in there, you know, a corner, cubic corner. So I went down to the florist. I said to her, listen, you know that table that I want this. I took her upstairs in the bar and show her the table. I want this corner of the table, right, which was like a little mini library. I said, I want the full of flowers. I don't care how you do it. You put flowers everywhere. Okay. All right. So he comes with, you know, and as he was, oh, come, I've got your table already for you, the table that you ask. So they walk in and they stop. She said, Mamma mia, you told me that it was a special day, but wow, that's an incredible effort you made, full of flowers. So thank you. And so he looks at me before he started to say, it's not my idea. I said, you see, he does make effort, you know. So I made sure that it looked like that he made the call. Yeah. So they sit down, they went to the bottle of champagne, and eventually I brought the ring. So this came in a big parcel, right? I said, this is for you. So open. Eventually came to the ring, right? It was chocolate. It was all kind of different things. But I said, and eventually came to the ring. The last layer was a petal of roses, all roses, and the little box in them. It was a little box like this, right? And inside there was a lei. Every time I used to lift the lei, and the last layer was petal of roses, right, with this little box inside. And she picked it up in the ring and she said yes. To tell you the story quickly, they got married. I organized the wedding, the champagne cocktails and all the rest of it. And then eventually she fell pregnant, all right? The day that she was giving birth, right, on the way to the hospital, they decided to stop to my bar to order a glass of champagne to say thank you for what I did to them.
Wow.
All right?
Goosebumps.
And I never serve a glass of champagne as quick as I did that time. I said, I can do anything, but giving birth, I can't. Just bloody have a sip of glass champagne and go away. And they did, you know. So, and the wonderful thing is they have the son, and this son now is a regular customer of mine. And he always tells me, my dad tells me that whenever I'm looking for a good woman, I should come to you.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So this is one of the stories I can tell you. But now I'm going to finish this interview, if you don't mind, because I have a few calls.
Thank you very much for
one thing. You know, you're talking about goosebumps.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
This story that I'm going to tell you, it gives me a goosebump. All right. As I say, I met and served a lot of people, but one person I served that it became to be a very good friend, and is my hero. It was Stevie Wonder. All right. Stevie Wonder used to start to come to my bar, and one day I created a cocktail for him called Champagne Wonder. He takes that cocktail everywhere he goes. He has his recipe, right, in this little bag. And one day, as he was drinking Champagne Wonder, my pianist was playing, Brian was playing the piano. And I noticed that he was listening to the music. And he was rocking in his head like that, all right? So I went to him and I said, Steve, would you like to play? And he said, yes, Salvatore, I would love to. Now imagine how magical it was for my customer at the bar, listen to Stevie Wonder play live.
Wow.
But not for one or two songs, but over half an hour. Right? But the most magical time for me was that at the end of the evening, when he stood up to leave, I went and said bye to him. And he started to applaud. And I said, Steve, what's that for? And he said, from one artist to another. And that's what we can be. If we love what we do, we can be as a par as the biggest artist in the world, because we have developed, right? Not only a relationship, not only love and care, but we gave him a home to come back over and over and over again to visit. And he still does that. That is hospitality, Carrie.
Wow. Salvatore Calabrese, I have no words to thank you and to explain how fulfilling was this. Thank you very much for accepting the invitation and sharing this hour with us.
And whenever you can, drink in this beautiful new liqueur that I create, the best liqueur in the world.
I will put in the description the Acqua Bianca. This podcast will have in the description. Make sure that you will taste the magic.
Oh, but you can hear, you can see the magic of the creation of the Maestro in this.
The art of hospitality inside, and you can taste it. Thank you very much for this. It was a big pleasure.
Nice to everyone. God bless. Keep safe. And don't forget, when the bars will open, a bigger smile. Okay? And a bit of this.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It was amazing. You had Maestro Salvatore Calabrese. I hope you enjoyed it at least as much as I enjoyed it. It was an amazing pleasure. See you next week. Cheers.
God bless you.